Ever felt confident and doubtful at the same time? We all know life is a balancing act between order and chaos. And if our lives are too orderly all the time, we ossify, we become rigid, we no longer develop. But if our lives are just full of chaos, it just becomes a vicious circle, a race to the bottom. We need a little bit of both. So if we have too much chaos, we will obviously be looking forward to more order and vice versa. Now, what sprang to mind today is the mixture of doubt and confidence in different situations in life. For example, a teenage guy going to cold approach a girl to, talk to her and get to know her because he finds the girl attractive. He might be confident, which is generally not the case with teenage boys, but at the same time, he certainly will be full of doubt, thinking, if I don't know this girl, what am I going to say? Do I come across as somebody that she would like? How can I woo her? What things do I have to perform and do in order to get to my aspirational goal, which is to maybe date her, get into a relationship, whatever, have sex? It's the same thing as imagine you practice a martial art. You've been training at the dojo, and then you participate in your first competition. At the same time, you have that doubt inside of you saying, I'm jumping into the middle of chaos, and there might be a curveball that's thrown at me, figuratively speaking, by the opponent that I don't know necessarily. But at the same time, you are confident because what you've been practicing in the dojo, you know your skills and you know what you can do, what are your strengths and weaknesses. So there's a balance of both. And whatever situation it is, let's say you have a job where you're going into an important negotiation, let's say for a big business contract, and you know that there's something that you bring to the table and the other party wants something else, and you should find middle ground, and ideally you come out on top, you shake hands and you agree and you do a deal, and you're confident that you can make it happen, but it's not under your control. So you have a doubt of like, is it going to work? Are we going to get the deal done or not? And I believe that whenever we're faced with situations that include a certain level of chaos and uncertainty and doubt, it is more of a growth potential that's being presented to us by engaging in somewhat doubtful, risky situations that essentially, if we do take the leap, whether it's a leap of confidence, of faith, or whatever, that is the extension of our, let's say, getting out of our comfort zone. And that's where the big growth happens. So, in the same vein of somebody who's going into their first martial arts competition, I think the first time they do that is the most memorable one, more often than not. Because what they learn about themselves in that situation, that's where you start to grow mentally. And why not physically too? But if you've done already 50 competitions, you probably don't, let's say, you don't have the same amount of doubt about yourself because you've already been there, you've done that. Let's say a guy who's 35 years old, he's been talking to 100 women or 200 women. If it's a woman number 201 that he goes to talk to, he's probably less nervous. He's probably more confident because he knows what's up. Is there a doubt there? Absolutely. Because you don't necessarily know what the other person is going to throw back at you. But when you've done enough repetition in a certain field of endeavor, obviously then you're more confident in your own skills. But the process of getting outside of your comfort zone, that has to happen voluntarily. And the younger you start and the more you continue through life, the more you're going to advance in terms of becoming the best version of yourself, essentially. Um, it's kind of like you start life off with one cylinder, and then once you get to your, let's say you go to school, you get to your teenage years, you can fire up the second cylinder. Then you finish your education of whatever formation you have for your job. You go to the working life and you settle to working life. Then you got a third cylinder. Then you advance. You develop skills, interpersonal skills. You maybe fire up a fourth cylinder. At the same time, in your private life, you have friendships, family, intergender relationships. That's when you maybe have cylinder number 5 and 6 on. Then you have hobbies, you educate yourself, you work out, you develop some physical challenge in your life, whether it's lifting, whether it's running, triathlon, whatever. Then you start firing up more and more cylinders. And once you get to 30, 40, 50, 60, then you've built up your life in a way that you're running on all the 8 or 12 cylinders in your car. I mean, figuratively speaking, in your life. And the more you kind of you let the fuel in, basically, if you want to look at your life, it's like a house. Let's say your house has got 10 different rooms. In order for you to live a fulfilling life in the holistic sense of the word, you have to be going to each room of your house. You have to turn on the lights, and whatever is in the room, you have to figure out what it is. You have to clean it up, and you have to set it up so that every room serves a purpose. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm not going to the basement. I'm not going to the attic because who knows what scary stuff might be there." Or, "Oh, I'm too busy. I'm stressed. I don't want to bother myself with looking into these parts of my life because I might get scared of what I discover if I do go there." But it's something you have to do. You can't live in a house which is, well, you could say your mind and your body for decades and trying to pretend that there's no elephant in the room, because we all have these elephants in our rooms, which is our life. So developing confidence, it's really a question of go out there, challenge yourself, do something out of the ordinary. Let's say you get bullied in school, and the bully is probably somebody who's socially skilled to a degree where they impose themselves and their will upon others. They might be physically also larger, so you're kind of scared of getting beat up if you challenge them or you stand up for yourself. Um, but the first time you do that towards, let's say, a bully, and from a male perspective, let's say the bully is somebody who's running their mouth and who's physically trying to dominate, and through their social circle, they kind of turn on people and bully them. The first time you stand up to a bully and say enough, and say, "Look, I'm ready to fight. Let's bring it on." You take a risk. You in your head, you are that picture of potentially a small David, and you're facing Goliath. But in the sense of a bully, it's more a question of you challenging yourself. Do I dare to stand up for what's right and not accept this sort of behavior? The first time you do it, you're overcoming yourself. If you've done that once or twice, you know the next time is going to be way easier because you know already what happened in here. And do that enough times, people around you are going to notice, like, okay, don't mess with that guy or that girl, because they have gotten certain energy, vibe, sense of respect for themselves, saying, I might be a nice guy or a nice girl, but try your luck, and I'll give it to you. So don't mess with me, basically. Um, so there you have to develop that ability in yourself to be dangerous. Because if you're just a tame poodle, people are gonna sooner or later they're gonna walk all over you. But if they know that, yeah, you might be a sometimes domesticated cat or feline, They know that, yeah, when you deal with them correctly, they're gonna purr, they're gonna be very nice, but they're gonna have the claws, and they come out if you don't treat them right. So this is also, I would say, part of confidence. And the when it comes to doubt, for example, I think all of us, we have doubt. Like, let's say I've been in 50 negotiations in business in my life, right? In the 51st negotiation, is there doubt inside of my head? Sure, absolutely. But the level of confidence in terms of understanding the situation, the goals, the limitations, and the strength, that's good enough and that's fluid enough to say, I'll go in there, I'll do my best, and whatever is outside of my control, I just let it be. If I come out of that negotiation, you know, with an unsuccessful outcome, I can just clearly tell myself I did my best. If that's not enough, okay, it is what it is. Um, so this is what comes to confidence. Now, obviously, there are people in this world who seem to have an unreal or abnormal level of confidence in their skills or abilities, or kind of an aura around them. What comes to mind is somebody like Arthur, who, according to the legend, there was a sword that was stuck in a stone, and lots of men tried to pull the sword out. And the legend said only the chosen one can pull that sword out. And Arthur goes there, he pulls the sword out. Now, was that a level of, I just kind of tried and I was the chosen one, like great, nice? Or was it that Arthur knew that was his destiny? I come back to the David and Goliath. If you're let's say a teenage boy that's half the size of a grown and experienced warrior, and you voluntarily say, I'll just have my sling and one stone and I'll fight the baddest guy on the planet. That's like having a regular dude saying, oh, I'll go to the cage with the UFC heavyweight champion, believing that you can actually win. Now, somebody might say, well, David in this case, or let's say Arthur, before he pulled the sword out of the stone, he would tell people like, I'll do it. I'll do it. Without hesitation. People are like, you must be a little nuts. Nobody's been able to do that so far. Yet he went in there and did it. Now, could such a confidence be based on just somebody either being so skilled, or where does that confidence come from? And then you come to a question of like, if Arthur believed it was his destiny to be King Arthur, and that's why he believed he's going to take it out, his confidence was not based on something human. It was something, it was a goal beyond himself. It was a question of faith, to put it that way. It's similar when you look at David and Goliath. David apparently, his faith was the factor why he went out there, and basically in the eyes of everybody else, he was committing guaranteed suicide. But he came out on top. He conquered the biggest obstacle and the biggest threat that anybody could imagine. And that was because he had that faith. Now, the supernatural faith in our ability to overcome unimaginable obstacles. Sometimes you might say, maybe that's founded, maybe it's not. And somebody who has that faith, they might seem crazy. Now, sure, there are people who might say, oh, the apocalypse is coming in the year 20 whatever, or 19 or 18 or something like that. And they come up with a cult, and hundreds of, maybe even thousands of people believe in that cult. And they're confident to death that that's what's going to happen. And then that time comes to pass and it doesn't. Then you might say, yeah, that was a crazy person, a manipulative person. But I think all of us, to a degree, wish that we had that supernatural faith in a mission, a goal that's beyond ourselves, that we could overcome something that humanly seems impossible. So when it comes to, let's say, confidence and doubt, Obviously, we're always going to have a mixture of the two in life. And the question is, which beast are you going to feed? The more you feed the doubt, the more you're like, oh, so many things can go wrong. Yeah, you'll probably never become a bigger, best version of yourself because you feed the doubt. When you feed the confidence, but you accept that there's doubt and there's the very real possibility of failure. That's the only way you can grow is you have to accept that failure is part of the paradigm. None of these winners have become winners just by saying, "Oh, I'll just fly through all the obstacles." No, you have to do that through failure and the acceptance that you might fail. Um, so this is my short thoughts on confidence and doubt. And yeah, what do you think?